Hello reception, it's today's favourite 5 and this week we've been looking at the story The Dinosaur That Pooped a Planet. Now I hope you've enjoyed this story this week. Now I'm going to ask you some questions and you can pick one of the vocabularies that I ask you, see if you can tell me which one you think would work best. So let's have a read. The Dinosaur That Pooped a Planet. Danny and Dinosaur liked to have fun. Some days they had lots, some days they had none. Do you think Danny is fearless or brave? I think he's a bit brave to play with a dinosaur. Not quite sure if I would want to play with a dinosaur. One day they were bored. They had no games to play. Danny said, "Dinosaur, what shall we do today? We could mow the lawn, we could tidy the place, we could do our chores, or we could go to space." Are Danny and the dinosaur bored or fed up? I think they're a bit fed up. They're not sure what to do, are they? Let's see what they get up to. "But you mustn't forget to have lunch," said their mummy. "You cannot have fun without food in your tummy." So they packed a packed lunch for the Science Museum, where rockets were kept if you wanted to see them. There were hundreds of rockets and spaceship surprises, tall ones and small ones of all shapes and sizes, and one that was ready to launch with a door big enough for a boy and his pet dinosaur. Are there oodles or tons of different rockets? I think there's tons of rockets. They ignored all the warnings. They couldn't care less. They pressed all the things they shouldn't have pressed. Oh no. Do you think Danny and the dinosaur are being reckless or foolish? I think they're being a little bit reckless with pressing all of those buttons. Let's see what happens. T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition! They started their intergalactic space mission. They flew higher than houses and buildings and cranes, much higher than birds, even higher than planes. "We're in space!" Danny yelled as they floated around, but the dinosaur's tum made a grumbling sound. Is the dinosaur feeling hungry or starving? If his tummy's grumbling, I think he might be starving. Is it time to have lunch? Danny looked at his watch. Then he looked all around for the dino's lunchbox. Danny started to worry, then started to panic. They'd left their packed lunches back home on their planet. Oh no! Do you think Danny is alarmed or is he panicked? What do you think? Tell me. Looking at his face, I think he might be a little bit panicked. He's not got his lunch with him. So, with no food on board, not the smallest of crumbs, a disastrous dinosaur feast had begun. It gobbled up gadgets and gizmos galore. Nothing was safe from the space dinosaur. Robots and ray guns and blinkering red blinkers, eating things thought up by NASA's great thinkers. The hyperdrive gamma reactor machine was swallowed along with the space tractor beam. It chewed and it chomped on the spaceship's controls. The rocket was dotted with dino tooth holes. Inside it was bare. The spaceship was empty. Outside there were more things to eat. There was plenty. It broke down the door with a cool ninja chop. Out in space, dinosaurs are much harder to stop. Oh no, do you think the dinosaur is being greedy or hoggish? I think he's being a little bit greedy, isn't he? Does he need to eat all of that? It chomped on the moon like a big chunk of cheese, then shoved even more in its mouth with a squeeze. It munched on the Martians from Mars and their cats. Their cats are like us, but their cats wear cool hats. Satellite Saturn and 6 supernovas, shape-shifting saucers and 7 space rovers. It guzzled 5 gallons of fuel from the tank, and Danny's jaw dropped as he watched what it drank. With a crunch and a crack and a nom nom nom, in one dino gulp, their rocket was gone. Now nothing was left. All Danny could see was a fat dinosaur where the rocket should be. And so they were stranded with no way back home. Just Danny and Dino in space, all alone. Is the dinosaur ginormous or humongous now? What do you think? Look at his tummy. Ginormous or humongous? I'm going to go with, I think the dinosaur is now humongous. Now Danny was crying. He cried and cried. He cried and his tears filled the spacesuit inside. Don't think Danny's feeling very good. Do you think he's feeling a bit miserable or upset? Look at him crying. I think he's miserable and probably upset too. But I'm going to go with miserable. Unless they were going to stay there forever, the dinosaur needed to do something clever. With the feeling of guilt deep down in its gut, its brain brewed a plan involving its butt. It knew there was only one thing it could do to get them back home. It needed to poo. Oh no, what's going to happen? Like a poop-powered rocket, the dinosaur flew. Dan hopped on its back and he watched as it pooped. It pooped out the robots and ray guns and blinkers. The things NASA's thinkers thought up were now stinkers. It pooped out the moon. It pooped out the stars. It pooped the space rovers and Martians from Mars. Oh my goodness. When Danny looked back, he could see a poop trail from far out in space to the dinosaur's tail. They headed for Earth and they started to orbit. It pooped on the clouds, but the clouds just absorbed it. Oh no! Do you think all that poo is disgusting or revolting? Ew. I think it's revolting. All that poo up in the sky, up in space. Silly dinosaur. They flew past the buildings and streets of their town, leaving the houses all smelly and brown, and finally landed back down on the ground. Hooray! Danny cried. We are home safe and sound. Do you think Danny is feeling relieved or glad? Do you know what? I think by looking at his face, he feels relieved that he's not up in space with this silly dinosaur that's eaten everything. They looked to the sky, and the things that were pooped had formed a poop planet right next to the moon. And so Danny promised to listen to Mummy, because fun is not fun without food for your tummy. And just when you thought all the pooping was done, a Mars cat plopped out of the dinosaur's bum. Oh my goodness! Were you surprised or stunned when that cat pooped out of the dinosaur's bum? Do you know what? I was a little bit surprised. I thought he'd finished all his pooing. What a funny story. Well done with your vocabulary today. See you next week. Bye.